So, folks, we gotta talk about ICE. We got some good news, we got some bad news. We'll start with the good news, which is that a federal judge has ordered that Liam Ramos and his father uh, be released from the Dilley, Texas facility. This is after reports that Liam, the 5-year-old child in the blue bunny hat who was used as bait to try and lure out the rest of his family, uh, had taken ill while in custody. And the story that unfolded from there, Judge Fred Byery ruled the government must release both the father and child from custody. According to the court's order, they must be released to a public place as soon as possible and no later than Tuesday, February 3rd of this year. The judge also ordered immigration officials to tell the family's lawyer exactly when and where the release will happen. Officials must give at least 2 hours notice before releasing them. And that is a really important component of what is happening here in America. It's a really important component of what ICE has been doing routinely. And having that directly stipulated by a judge is extremely important, because what ICE has been doing is releasing people in dangerous conditions with no way of contacting anybody, with no any kind of like appropriate clothing or food or anything like that. They've just been dumping them wherever, and often punitively. It's been pretty disgusting, and so that is a minor win. But I want to remind all of you that there are currently over 3,800 children detained by ICE that are sitting inside of these concentration camps, often without their families. And it is truly, truly evil. And we cannot rest until every single one of them is free. We cannot rest until every single man, woman, and child is free from this inhumane system that, I want to remind you, is being imposed upon them for their equivalent legal infraction to a speeding ticket. When you get in your car and you go 1 mile per hour or more over the speed limit, you are committing the exact same level of civil infraction that these people are doing. Except that you are doing it on an almost daily basis, whereas they do it once. And no American citizen, no person who's a legal resident of America would ever argue that for speeding you should be incarcerated and tortured and have your family and life destroyed. It's why instead of doing that, instead of torturing people in prison for speeding, we give them speeding tickets. You just pay the fine, fill out some paperwork, and you're done. In the same way, we could, instead of building billion-dollar facilities and spending like $100 billion on imprisoning people, on catching people with, masked men with guns on the streets of every American city, instead of doing that, we could just have 1,000 bureaucrats sending out letters and fines. We could just do that. This entire evil, awful apparatus could be replaced with a handful of bureaucrats whose job it is to send letters and set court dates and have people pay fines. All right? And it's worth noting, by the way, that more reporting is coming out by around ICE's efforts and CBP's efforts to essentially cover up their crimes. The Intercept has an extremely good piece here today. I'm gonna copy this and post it in chat for you guys, about the systematic targeting of witnesses to the murders and executions that they've been doing here, but also if they're doing this to even people who are observing and witnessing murders, they're definitely doing it to people who are doing like observing lesser crimes, if they're allowed to. It's so gross. It's so gross. It's terrible. And they pay their fines with taxpayer money? No, they don't. Undocumented immigrants don't get taxpayer money. They don't benefit from taxpayer money like you or I do as US citizens. As undocumented people, they are actually barred from those social safety nets. The idea that they're living off of government largesse, it's just not true. You've been fed a pile of bullshit. Don't start spewing it around at other people. Fix yourself. Like, you see government agents literally snatching people who witnessed them murder and, like, trying to suppress their testimony. And you're like, huh, undocumented immigrants, though. Those undocumented immigrants, their crime is like working at Target. Amptunes, you're in chat right now and you're asking about how undocumented immigrants are reaping all of these benefits from SSI, right? Did you know that undocumented immigrants cannot access SSI? If you know that, then why are you saying it? Don't come here and spread lies. Like, again, the idea that, like, oh, there are people who are here illegally who are then going to the federal government and saying, hello, I am an undocumented illegal citizen. Or not even an illegal citizen. I'm an undocumented immigrant. Money, please. I heard other things. If you heard other things, you are simply wrong. There are people who are non-citizens who can get SSI. For example, people who are here on work visas, who are here in the country legally as residents, but non-citizens. But undocumented immigrants don't get SSI. Really? Stop, like, sucking up the slop from the stupid trough. Stop it. They heard other things, they were simply being lied to. Yeah, like, that's the thing, right? I don't know where you're getting your information from, but it's from people who think so little of you that they just are feeding you lies. Now, if you're thinking like, well, people who are here seeking asylum, they can get SSI, that's because asylum is a legal process. That's because people who are seeking asylum are here legally. Like, I just... And I frankly, the impression I get from a lot of you folks is that you've never attempted to apply for SSI. You've never actually gone through this process. Because I guarantee you, there's a bunch of people in my chat who have, and they are all looking at you right now like you're the stupidest motherfucker. Right? Because you're coming in here and you're like, well, the undocumented immigrants are taking our tax dollars. And then I show you, no, they're not taking your tax dollars. And you're like, huh, well, I was lied to. So how about that? It's like, well, you were told lies. Stop it. In fact, I'm gonna throw this out there. Okay? I'm gonna throw this out there because you clearly don't know it. Undocumented immigrants pay into Social Security, but they do not get the benefits of Social Security. And what that means is if you deported every undocumented immigrant, you would wind up having to slash the benefits that people get paid by Social Security by 23%. Your stupid crusade is literally going to cost you Social Security benefits. Do you enjoy swearing at people? When they deserve it, yeah. Like, I'm sorry, you're coming into my chat. I live in Minneapolis, bitch. There are masked men on my street shooting people blocks away from my home. And you're coming in here being like, well, it's kind of justified because these people are taking Social Security. And like, I gotta be honest with you, I've had it up to here with people who have just blindly believed lies like you. And so if I swear at you, I'm sorry, but you know what? There's a lot worse that's happening in my community to people I care about than getting sworn at. Stop it. I'm sorry if you are so soft you can't handle a swear word. But you're coming in here and making trying to make justifiable excuses for people getting executed in the streets, for people being tortured in prison camps, for children being abducted from their schools. Like, shut the fuck up. So ICE is covering up its crimes. They are taking witnesses to their crimes and trying to deny them from the local authorities who would otherwise be investigating said crimes. And it's not good. I would say it's in fact very bad. And this particular witness has a lot to say. Here we go. Less than 40 minutes after federal immigration agents shot and killed 37-year-old Alex Preddy on Nicollet Avenue in South Minneapolis, Clayton Kelly was thrown face first onto the sidewalk, tasting snow and street grime as a federal agent's knee drove into his back. The incident, a video of which The Intercept reviewed and corroborated with an independent eyewitness, occurred not long after Kelly and his wife arrived in the area where Preddy was killed. With protesters amassing and agents from Customs and Border Patrol as well as Immigration and Customs Enforcement flooding the area, the couple told The Intercept they just wanted to observe the scene. All of a sudden, Kelly said, a federal agent started running towards me, pointing and yelling, "That's him, get him." 10 days earlier, Kelly had watched as an immigration agent shot Julio Cesar Sosa Celis in the leg during a federal enforcement action in North Minneapolis. As Kelly told the local outlet Sahan Journal, an SUV with police lights chased another vehicle and then they went into a house. I heard 2 shots before the area was just being swarmed by ICE immediately. Sosa Celis was injured, and Kelly's account contradicted the official narrative released by the Department of Homeland Security. At the scene of Preddy's killing, Kelly told agents they would find themselves on the wrong side of history, he recalled. After the exchange, he and his wife, Alana Erickson, began walking toward another section of Nicollet Avenue where people were congregating, and as soon as Kelly turned his back, that was when agents began shouting and running towards him. I had my hands up, I kept saying, I'm leaving, Kelly said. Kelly is far from the only civilian to be brutalized by federal agents in Minneapolis this month, but his detailed account of his beating and detention offers a clear example of how the agents ostensibly deployed to carry out immigration enforcement have instead shifted their purpose to encompass a crackdown on dissent. In Kelly's case, it raises the question of whether he's facing retaliation for acting as a witness. And that is exactly what's happening. They are compiling databases full of people who are acting as witnesses to their crimes, and they are trying to punish any of them who are continuing to act as witnesses to their crimes. It is a campaign of fear and intimidation. It is a campaign to suppress the truth. It is a campaign to essentially try and beat us all here in Minneapolis into submission. And I gotta tell you guys, it's only making folks more mad, more ornery, okay? You know, it's not gonna stop, all right? And I do want to say also that more details are emerging about this church that anti-ICE protesters went to protest the fact that they have one of their head pastors is in fact a field commander for ICE operating out of St. Paul, right? And this pro-ICE church is detailed in this piece from Salon, which I will also link to all of you guys in chat. But essentially, the entire thing here is this church is, I gotta be honest with you, as someone who grew up in the faith, it is a church of Satan. It is a den of iniquity. It is honestly disgusting, the more details I keep finding out about this. So, one of the people who has been agitating behind the scenes in the far right for the arrest of journalists who were there documenting what happened, specifically Don Lemon, is named Joe Rigney. All right? So here's one of his posts off of Twitter. All I want for MLK Day this year is for Don Lemon to be arrested for coordinating with Democratic operatives to disrupt a Christian worship service. Right? And Joe Rigney, that might be, for some of you, ringing some bells of recognition. Because, well, not quite, but we'll get to why you might be recognizing his name. But it is important to note that in this particular church, Joe Rigney is known as Pastor Joe. He is, in fact, one of the pastors who works below senior pastor Douglas Wilson, the man who heads the ICE branch out in St. Paul here. The St. Paul field office for ICE. Now, it is worth also mentioning that the reason you might find Joe Rigney's name familiar is because you might have heard about the concept of the sin of empathy. That is actually taken directly from Pastor Joe Rigney's book, The Sin of Empathy. This is the guy. Like, this is, we're talking like actual den of evil here. What? This is a thing now? Yeah, no, when they were talking about the sin of empathy, they were referencing this guy. That straight Nazi shit, it is. And I want to share with you all a direct quote from a book that Doug Wilson, the pastor who is also the ICE field director here in St. Paul, wrote. And it kind of becomes clear after I read you guys this quote that what kind of operation is being run here in Minnesota under this guy, and why one of his associate pastors is a guy who thinks that empathy is a sin. Here's Doug Wilson's quote. Slavery as it existed in the South was not an adversarial relationship with pervasive racial animosity. It was a relationship based upon mutual affection and confidence. There has never been a multiracial society which has existed with such mutual intimacy and harmony in the history of the world. Doug Wilson, that's from his book, Southern Slavery as It Was, published in 1996. Doug Wilson is a slavery apologist, and he currently runs operations in the St. Paul ICE field office. This is the nature of the church that Christians in the area came together to protest. When you are seeing pastors who participated in the protest of this church get arrested, understand they're getting arrested for exercising their freedom of religious speech and thought. Because they're turning up to protest this shit because this guy is a goddamn slavery apologist and he's actively engaged in running a slave catching operation right now in 2026. The idea that like, oh, well, you can't protest him because he was in a church. He's using that church as a vehicle to advocate for slavery. It is truly disgusting. Now, you might be wondering, who was Doug Wilson's co-author on this book? Who was Doug Wilson's co-author? The co-author of the book, Southern Slavery as It Was, is a man by the name of Steve Wilkins. Now, if you don't know the name Steve Wilkins, that's fine, but it's worth noting that Steve Wilkins is one of the guys who is the co-founder of the group League of the South. And I will give you guys one guess as to what the League of the South is dedicated to doing. Anyone want to guess? Being CEOs of Racism Inc.? Nope, it is the South will rise again shit. It is literally the Southern Nationalist League, formerly known as League of the South, is an American white nationalist, neo-Confederate white supremacist organization. It is literally dedicated to resurrecting the goddamn Confederacy. Like, we're not even talking, like, just bringing back slavery. We're talking, like, they want the South to rise again for real in 2026. I just, this is where we're at, guys. This is where we're at. It's awful, awful stuff. Yeah, just, again, here's from 2001, League of the South works to take over churches. This is from the Southern Poverty Law Center. Animated by extremist theology, a group of neo-Confederate zealots are seeking control of Southern churches. And you've noticed they've moved up a bit to the north here. The central player in this little-noticed drama is the Reverend Stephen J. Wilkins, pastor of the Auburn Avenue Presbyterian Church in Monroe, Louisiana, and a founder and current board member of the Neo-Confederate League of the South. Wilkins is an advocate of Christian Reconstruction, a theology that seeks to impose draconian Old Testament law on civil society. The League's goal, Wilkins has said, is to save America from paganism and restore it as the last bastion of Christendom, a Christendom that, in Wilkins' view, sees slavery as perfectly legitimate. Explains a lot, doesn't it? Explains a lot, right? This is legit a grand wizard? Oh, 1000%. This is members of the KKK realizing that their branding is dead and gone, and they have to rebrand themselves. Right? Do I need to be a neo-unionist? Yes. Unironically, we all need to be neo-unionists. Because one, that sounds cool as hell. And two, we have to fight these guys. And Doug Wilkinson, again, or not Doug Wilkinson, Doug Wilson, who is the guy that these protesters were there to protest. He is also a slavery apologist who thought it was a great idea to write a book with this guy about how slavery was swell. I still wish the song Way Down South in the Land of Traitors was so far away from here, us here in Minnesota, but the Land of Traitors made its way up here, I guess. And we gotta do our part to fight these guys, you know? You guys gotta get organized. You guys gotta get ready to square up. Join your local Dems, join your local DSA, because we gotta get ourselves organized. And we, especially if we're on the left, if we're progressives, if we're, socialists, we gotta start going into liberal spaces and letting them know, I'm sorry, bingo, we're gonna have to fight these guys. I gotta be honest, they're coming to fight us whether we want them to or not. We gotta organize and get ready, because they're coming into our houses. They're coming into our towns, our cities, and trying to subvert all of us with their neo-Confederate rhetoric, making no apologies for slavery and their desire to reassert it. We gotta start working on that part where we bring them all the way down south. Get them out of the streets of Minneapolis. Get them out of Minnesota. And you know what? Let's just not stop bringing them south until they're all the way in the sea. All right? Reconstruction never should have stopped. We got to finish the job of Reconstruction. It is unironically the number one call we have right now, is to get ourselves organized and finish the goddamn job. I don't want them here either. That's why we got to keep pushing them until they're in the sea.
We can
Lesbian
rebuild
hot
him.
sauce.
We
Thank you for
have
the
the
raid.
technology. We can make him worse than he was. Creepier, more connected with power, more pedophilic.
You know, excellent timing, even though we're not currently talking about Jeffrey Epstein, because unironically, a part of this white nationalist project is rebuilding and rehabilitating Jeffrey Epstein. It is unironically something that they are actively engaged in right now. Okay? And Sake Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. This is why I wanted to talk a little bit about ICE and also Epstein. And we're going to get to the Epstein portion later, but understand that there is an ongoing project to keep alive the types of networks that Epstein set up. Because he was setting up a large network of moneyed and influential individuals in order to radicalize folks to the far right. I don't know how intentional this was or whether it was birthed by Epstein's stupidity. You know, it might be a little bit of both. But I want to share one of the things that I saw in the Epstein files recently, which is this exchange. And the participants have been censored, but we know that it's from Jeffrey Epstein and multiple other participants. Did you tell Norwegians that the child murderer was a lefty radical? Did you tell Norwegians that the child murderer was a lefty radical? Yes, yes, yes. Went over well. Yes, yes, yes. Went over well. Yes, yes, yes. Yes, went over well. Eco-fascist. 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 Though he gave a Nazi salute. Now, if you could be forgiven if this is cryptic to the extent that you don't know what they are talking about. They're talking about Anders Breivik, a far-right neo-Nazi white nationalist who killed like 70 children at a summer camp. Like, it's one of the worst solo terrorist attacks in world history. In this exchange, you have essentially saying like, yes, Anders Breivik, you told the Norwegians he was a leftist, right? And whoever he's talking to is like, oh yeah, no, they all believe he's a far leftist, eco-terrorist, eco-fascist. And then the last point of this exchange is, he did give a Nazi salute, though. which is fitting because Anders Breivik is a neo-Nazi. He's not a leftist. He's a goddamn neo-Nazi. He killed 8 people in a car bombing, and then, like, 2 hours after that, he went and killed almost 70 people, 33 of whom were children, just as a correction for myself. But, like, I'm sorry, to describe him as an eco-fascist, no, he's just a old-school Nazi fascist. This project, put together by Jeffrey Epstein, a guy who thinks like this, who's like, yes, tell everyone, spread the word among our influential circles that Anders Breivik was a leftist. And this core of radicalization, there's a lot of other evidence in the Epstein files as well, and obviously a lot of other awful things, but indicates to me that there was a concerted effort and project being pushed by Jeffrey Epstein towards fascism that aided far-right authoritarian fascists. We'll talk more about that when we get to the Epstein segment later on today. But it is important to keep in mind as we continue to talk about ICE. You know, Jeffrey Epstein making excuses for Anders Breivik being on the left is a way to try and cover for people like Greg Bovino, who is openly anti-Semitic in calls with lawyers. Greg Bovino, the Border Patrol field leader, made disparaging remarks in reference to the U.S. attorney in Minnesota, an Orthodox Jew, people with knowledge of the phone call said. According to several people with knowledge of the telephone conversation which took place on January 12th, Mr. Bovino made derisive remarks about the faith of the U.S. attorney in Minnesota, Daniel N. Rosen. Mr. Rosen is an Orthodox Jew and observes Shabbat, a period of rest between Friday and Saturday nights that often includes refraining from using electronic devices. Mr. Bovino complained that Mr. Rosen had been unreachable for portions of the weekend because of Shabbat.
The Socialist Rifle Association is a not-for-profit apolitical organization, a 501(c)(4) social welfare organization that focuses on community defense. Bringing this up for no particular reason.
Well, I mean, you can just openly say people should join their local SRA. You can in fact just advocate for responsible gun ownership in the hands of leftists. That is a thing in America you have the right to do. Also, thank you for the $5 dono. I appreciate it. Like, I'm sorry, but like he's openly upset about a Jewish man observing like Jewish tradition. Mr. Bovino has been the face of Trump administration immigration crackdown, used the term chosen people in a mocking way, according to people with knowledge of the call. He also asked sarcastically whether Mr. Rosen understood that Orthodox Jewish criminals don't take weekends off, the people said. Super cool. What a, again, the fascist project is to cover for other fascists, to point and say, yes, the people on the left, they're the real anti-Semites. Don't pay any attention to the fact that our guy who's literally dressing as a Nazi is being openly anti-Semitic in calls with lawyers, and we're giving him actual administrative power. And I'm gonna say this, Gregory Bovino doesn't just say this out of nowhere. He doesn't just feel like he's emboldened to say this because he is the only anti-Semite serving in the Trump administration. There is a creation of a permission structure that results in him feeling like he can say that. It doesn't just come out of nowhere. He's not just trying it out on a call with lawyers. He's doing it because he has done it before, and he's doing it because other people in the administration, more influential than him, have also done it. And I will say credit to the folks here in Minneapolis and Minnesota for turning out in the cold, in the ice, day after day to protest.
All united everywhere, it's just this year. I want to wake you up to what 5 communities have been facing for decades and hundreds of years.
Like, people keep showing up. People keep, like, standing with each other. People keep bringing up some pretty good points that maybe congressional Dems should listen to.
Not for march with you. Money for schools and education. Money for schools and education. Not for ICE and deportation. Not for ICE and deportation.
I mean, I just have to say, I feel like if you have congressional Democrats saying, fuck ICE, money for schools and education, and not for, detention and deportation, that's an incredibly compelling argument right there. And people on the ground know that. It's why they're the chants. It's why they're able to get entire crowds of people to chant for that. Like, I don't know, congressional Dems, they're giving you the messaging that is working and resonating with the community. Use it. It's better than any focus group you could ever assemble. Like, damn, I'm so frustrated all the time with congressional Dems, especially when they offer almost nothing. And what we're dealing with here in Minnesota continues to escalate. And I talked about this a couple times over the last few days, but there have been allegations that ICE has been beating people, torturing people, and then dropping them off in remote wooded locations without coats in freezing temperatures and with also extensive injuries. And so I just want to point out, we now have people who are working in hospitals and urgent care confirming that this is happening. Here's one account.
Minnesota, we're getting news from healthcare workers that there's individuals that are showing up to the emergency room who require amputation, and some with cracked skulls, because ICE is taking individuals, stripping them naked, and abandoning them in the woods. This is the time that if you are a dog owner and you're taking your dogs for a walk at a nearby park or something, please just keep an eye out. Make sure that there's no individuals in there who had succumbed to hypothermia. This is really important. Please share this with everybody, and let's just come together.
Are being taken out into the woods around the Whipple and released in the middle of the night, sometimes with no clothes, always with no phone, if they're brown, with no ID. And it's a death sentence. One of the people had a cracked skull that's been treated. So they're taking the people that they don't want us to know about, and they're dropping them in the woods, which I've heard is...
And now that all seems okay. Well, that's two random people in like social media posts, right? Worth noting that local news has now confirmed that this is in fact happening. ICE claims a man shattered his skull running into a wall. Minneapolis hospital staff reject the account. A Mexican immigrant was taken to a Minneapolis hospital earlier this month after bones in his face and skull were broken while he was in federal custody. ICE initially claimed Alberto Castañeda Mondragon had tried to flee while handcuffed and purposely ran headfirst into a brick wall, according to court documents filed by a lawyer seeking his release. So, just to be clear, ICE brought him to the hospital and said, oh yeah, all of his extensive facial and cranial injuries, yeah, it's because he ran into a wall and did it to himself. Teehee. But staff members at Hennepin County Medical Center determined that they could not possibly account for the fractures and bleeding throughout the 31-year-old man's brain, said 3 nurses familiar with the case. It was laughable, if there was something to laugh about, said one of the nurses who spoke to the Associated Press on the condition of anonymity because they were not authorized to discuss patient care. There was no way this person ran headfirst into a wall. I mean, they are torturing people and then trying to say, oh, he fell down some stairs. It's like the oldest part in the book. It's like the oldest excuse that people trying to cover up their own crimes use. Oh yeah. We took him into custody and he just started he just started punching himself in the face. Yeah, he did all of it. It gets worse too. The AP interviewed a doctor and 5 nurses who work at HCMC who spoke on condition of anonymity. AP also consulted with an outside physician, and they all confirmed that Castañeda Mondragon's injuries were inconsistent with an accidental fall or running into a wall. ICE's account of how he was hurt evolved during the time that federal officers were at his bedside. At least one ICE officer told caregivers that Castañeda Mondragon got his expletive rocked. One of these ICE agents is actually like, nah, he didn't run into a brick wall. He got his shit rocked. Like, they're proud of this shit. They're proud of this. They want to brag about it. They have no sense of shame. There is no accountability for their crimes. And this is why one of the demands we need is that these people lose their qualified immunity and we start prosecuting each and every one of them. Every single ICE agent. I don't care if they've only done paperwork. Every single ICE agent needs to be prosecuted and stand trial for their crimes and complicity in what is happening here. They are actively covering up for each other. They are actively torturing people. They are actively killing people. They are actively destroying evidence. They are actively withholding witnesses from local investigators. They are actively, like, going around terrorizing the community, abducting US citizens without cause. Part of the demand for all of this is that we need accountability. And as far as I'm concerned, every single person who works at ICE, from top to bottom, needs to be prosecuted for this. And just one last kicker to this particular story. Gregorio Castañeda Mondragon said his older brother is from Veracruz, Mexico, and worked as a roofer. He has a 10-year-old daughter living in his hometown that he helps support. Now, it is also worth noting that Castañeda Mondragon entered the United States legally with valid immigration documents and founded a company that is called Castañeda Construction. He has no criminal record. The arrest warrant for him was not signed even by an immigration judge. And I want to remind you, immigration judges are not judicial judges. Immigration judges are fake judges. The arrest warrant signed for him is signed by an ICE officer. He was given 8 skull fractures while in custody. What is happening here is unconscionable. Yeah, they've effectively tried to make themselves Judge Shreds. So they can just sign their own warrants now? Yep. At least that's what they're telling each other. I do want to point out one, again, potentially good sign, which is that increasingly there are stories in the Twin Cities area of different members of local police starting to have enough of what ICE is doing. In St. Peter, Minnesota, for those of you who have never been to Minnesota and don't really know the area, St. Peter is about like an hour-and-a-half drive to the southwest of Minneapolis. So it's a ways out there. It's a small town. Kind of a middle of the nowhere type of place. There's a story making the rounds on NPR today that the local chief of police intervened in an attempted ICE apprehension. Here is the video of what happened here.
I think someone needs to call 911. They are seriously, like, attacking me.
We'll call 911 right now.
Yep.
What's your location?
Call 911. I'm right at the corner of...
Look at this. Like, they're doing, like, incredibly dangerous maneuvers to, like, pull people over.
Jefferson. Nope.
These fucking LARPers. Like, an unarmed woman driving a car. They all get out and pull pistols immediately.
No, I will not get out of the car. No. No. I will not get out of the car. You guys, I need CEOs here now.
Get out of the car.
No, I will not get out of the car. You can't do this. Get your hands off of me. Get your fucking hands off me. Get your hands off me. I am not doing shit. I am observing.
They all feel empowered, by the way, because they're in the middle of nowhere. They're in the middle of nowhere, and they feel like they can get away with doing incredibly risky vehicle maneuvers and getting out guns drawn to intimidate a woman. This is a very illegal stop. That is an understatement, yeah.
This is my constitutional right.
We're calling 911 right now.
I am not. You cannot arrest me. I'm observing.
You're not
You can't
observing.
arrest me. I'm observing.
Federal
You
investigation.
cannot. I am not getting
We're
in
taking a video too.
Get off of me. Get off of me.
You're under arrest.
Get. Someone call the MP or someone call the police.
Somebody help me.
Call the police. Call the police. Call them now. Call them now.
I mean, like, this is what's happening everywhere in the state. It doesn't matter if it's in the city, it doesn't matter if it's in the countryside. Like, people are aware that ICE is here. They're aware that they are lawless. That is why this car pulls over and people are like, what is happening? You okay? We're also videotaping.
Call them now.
We're calling 911. We're calling 911. They're calling 911 right now.
That's where we're at. That's where we're at here. Some of the worst things the Einsatzgruppen were in rural areas on the Western Front, so it makes sense they're aggressive like this in rural areas without community defense. Yeah. Yeah. And to be clear, I'm impressed by the level of community defense that has been organized in a place like St. Peter, where even there they have people following around ICE vehicles and observing them legally. So here is the rest of the story, right? St. Peter Police Chief intervened and got federal agents to release resident, sources say. NPR News has learned that the police chief in the small southern Minnesota city of St. Peter intervened Thursday to prevent federal immigration agents from taking a local resident into detention, although the city of St. Peter denied the intervention in a statement Saturday. It's believed that to be the first time a local police department in Minnesota intervened in a federal law enforcement action since the surge in immigration enforcement began 2 months ago. The resident, a woman who had been observing and recording video of immigration enforcement actions from her car Thursday afternoon when agents took her into custody. The woman, who did not want to be identified because she fears for her safety, is a U.S. citizen and a resident of St. Peter. She told NPR News in an interview that she was out in the community in her car, tracking the movements of federal agents and recording them on a dash cam. She shared the video with us. Agents in 3 vehicles began chasing her and trying to force her to pull over. Eventually, they box her in. 3 agents get out of the car in front of her with their guns drawn, and they try to force her out of her vehicle. Get out of the car, get out of the car. No, I will not get out of the car. While she's alone in the car, the woman can be heard talking with other observers on speakerphone, and she tells them to call 911. The agents open the door, and, again, I am extremely impressed by the level of organization, because she knows not to just go out and do this alone. She knows not to just go out there and, be in her car alone where no one else knows where she is. You got to be really smart about going out there these days, folks. They are looking for an excuse to brutalize you, to make you an example, and teach other people a lesson. They are looking to enact violence on us. They are looking to kill us. So she was on speakerphone the entire time with other folks in her community. The agents opened the door, which unlocked automatically when she put the gear shift in park. They drag her out and force her to the ground. She said the agents were overly aggressive and physical as they pinned her down and handcuffed her, leaving her with multiple cuts, scrapes, and bruises. The woman's husband eventually arrives and tries to intervene, and he made a separate recording of the interaction on his phone. He tells the agents not to search her car because they don't have a warrant and it would be an illegal search. The agents appear dismissive of his constitutional concerns. I'm not getting into the legality of everything, one agent responds tersely. NPR News interviewed the woman and her husband, who also does not want to be identified, fearing retaliation. The woman said the agents put her into one of their vehicles and started driving towards the Twin Cities, presumably to the Whipple Federal Building near MSP Airport, where ICE has an immigration detention facility. About 20 minutes into the drive, she says one of the agents got a call, apparently from an ICE supervisor. I couldn't hear what was being said, but within 30 seconds after they hung up, they exited on an exit that goes into Le Sueur, and then turned around, didn't say anything to me, and started heading back towards St. Peter. The husband told NPR News that after his wife was taken into custody, he called his attorney, and soon after, he got a call from the St. Peter Chief of Police, Matt Grochow, whom he said he has known for years. I was talking to him, kind of venting some of my frustrations, the man said, adding that he urged the chief to have his officers just be more visible during the federal enforcement actions. If local police were present and they could see you, I promise you their behavior more than likely, or hopefully would, be appropriate and law-abiding. And, there is a certain logic to this, where there is a separation between these two agencies, and I know people are a little bit skeptical that local police would act as any kind of block on what federal law enforcement is doing, but also understand that by the point we're talking about right now, local police really hates ICE and CBP. Because they're just running around doing whatever the fuck. They're making so much more work for local PD. It's crazy.
A takeaway: do not put your vehicle into park, set the parking brake instead. Automatic unlock is how they began assaulting her.
Yep. And so the thing is, and the reason local PD can be important is essentially they are individuals that ICE does not feel like they can just brutalize, does not feel like they can just abduct, does not feel like they can detain. They are effectively operating within different sets of rules, and we can use those differences to our advantage in our communities. Okay, and so a very good point, which seems, I know, to many folks on the left to be counterintuitive, to say the least. The husband said he talked to the chief for a while, and we had a good conversation. He asked me, "What's your wife's name?" I told him my wife's name. He said, "Was she picked up in a Bronco?" And I said, "I'm not sure, but it was an SUV, dark colored. I'd have to look at my video." He goes, "I think I got her. I'll call you back." The husband said a few minutes later, the chief called again and said, I got her, or I'm bringing her home. I was just so relieved that she got released and was able to come home," he said. The agents took the woman to the St. Peter police station, where she says Chief Grochow approached her, spoke with her, had her get into his squad car, and took her home. "He knew where I lived already because he had already been in contact with my husband," the woman said. "He started talking to me like he just couldn't believe how terrible it was, what was happening, and he was so sorry and so scared for me, and that type of thing. And he was so upset by what they were doing to our community." In an email to NPR News, Chief Grochow confirmed that ICE agents turned the woman over to him, and then he drove the woman home. "ICE returned the female to our police department. I saw her, and I gave her a ride home," Grochow wrote. On Friday, St. Peter Police Chief did not respond to additional questions about his involvement in the incident, but on Saturday, the city of St. Peter put out a statement denying that the chief intervened on the residents' behalf, which is very interesting. And I'm guessing it is to try and diffuse tensions with ICE so that ICE doesn't come in force to St. Peter. And again, because there's a recognition here broadly that ICE is only here to enact vengeance, right? St. Peter, Minnesota, Epsilon. It is a small city. It's a small town. I wouldn't even call it a city. It's a small town about an hour and a half to the southwest of Minneapolis. So it's out in the middle of nowhere.
Most cars have a setting to disable that auto unlock feature. Check your manual and turn it off. Not just because of ICE, but any other situation as well.
True. I also don't like auto unlock. I hate a lot of the features they put into newer cars, if I'm being completely honest with you guys. Appeasement doesn't work. Appeasement absolutely does not work. You are correct. But what we're seeing here is effectively, in my mind, a level of solidarity between police and local folks that I don't know that I've ever seen before. And it's very odd, to say the least. I even hesitate to use the word solidarity. I don't know that it's solidarity, but I think what we're seeing happen is the mentality shift from, at least as regarding local police officers, we're perhaps seeing a shift from, we are the police officers, if you are the cattle that we must, patrol among, to we're all under occupation now. it is now a situation where we're all under occupation. Yeah, like a pseudo solidarity, I'm not sure, but it's creating like a certain commonality between all the folks who live here, where we are beginning to become more and more united, whether it's conservative, liberal, leftist, police, worker, whatever. There is a certain burgeoning idea of solidarity under occupation here that it's weird to see. I feel strange even trying to articulate it. So that's where we are right now with ICE. Operations are expanding out beyond Minneapolis, and
At the last
just gonna
protest
have
I
to see
was
what
at as a
happens.
security marshal, a Dayton City police officer rolled up to me and asked if we needed help, and needed them to cover traffic. I don't know how to process it.
Yeah, it's a bit weird. It's a bit weird to see. Also, Lady Raincloud, thank you for the $5 dono. Hope you're doing okay. Hope you're keeping safe. I know it's real scary right now, especially in Ohio.
Rural policing is very different from urban policing. Rural police are often closer to the community, and unlike urban cops, live in the communities they police.
I mean, that is also true. There is a difference between rural and urban cops. That being said, that can cut very different ways, where rural police can be much worse than urban cops. The presence of true evil brings people together. Yeah, because I mean, like, whether or not they are rural or urban police, like, all of their friends and loved ones are also living under ICE occupation right now. And they're seeing people in their communities disappear, regardless of where they live, regardless of where you have your roots set down in the Twin Cities area. If you're in the suburbs, if you're in the rural areas, if you're in the city center, like, people are being disappeared. People are being brutalized. People are being killed. And like, they see this happening and they're suddenly realizing that the badge that protects them does not protect their loved ones. It's an interesting development I'm going to be keeping an eye on, to be sure. And maybe this is a one-off. Maybe I'm wrong. But there's something happening, something stirring here in Minneapolis and Minnesota broadly that I have never seen before here in America, at least in my lifetime. All that being said, folks, if you got anything out of this, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave a comment, let me know what you think about what's going on here. Let me know if you think I'm wrong about police, because I'm open to that idea, because it feels weird to even be articulating it. And also, folks, we got to get organized. If you're not in Minnesota, if you're not in Minneapolis, this is going to come for your state too. It's going to come for your city centers. It's going to come for your neighbors, your friends, maybe even you. And the only protection we have at the end of the day is getting organized. It is getting organized and standing alongside one another against this federal occupation of our cities, our states, our streets, our homes. And we have a moral, ethical obligation to stand up for our neighbors. So you got to get organized. Join your local Dems, join your local DSA, join some kind of local organizing apparatus. If you need help, folks here in the community can help you connect with your DSA, can help you connect with your Dems, can give you next steps, can help you find strategies to radicalize your Dems and make your DSA more effective. We gotta be doing all the things in whatever capacity we can. We'll have to see where things go, but organizing is the best defense that we have. And I will also say, more than anything, what I want you guys to avoid when you're looking at different organizations to join, I want you to avoid LARPy bullshit. I want you to avoid groups that are dedicated to making you look like you're virtuous for joining them while doing very little for the community or doing very little to organize folks. Because I guarantee you there's more being done by people on the left, by people who are liberals, by conservatives even, at your local school than there is in a lot of other different groups happening right now. Okay? There are going to be needs on the ground to keep and make sure kids are safe. to make sure people are able to get food when they're too afraid to leave their houses. There's going to be a lot of that type of thing happening in your communities. And if you're not involved in that, you got to figure out a way that you can be. So all that being said, folks, let's keep on going. Avoid the LARPy bullshit. Get involved on the ground. You can pat your head, rub your tummy at the same time. You can do the electoral shit. You can also do material support. You can do all the things. But find a group that is actually doing it rather than just virtue signaling about doing it. All that being said, folks, let's keep on going.
Riverboat Jack is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the scenes. Politics, gaming, and plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.